Get Sweaty with Leddy, a wellness program about pain management.
Welcome to Get Sweaty with Leddy. My guest today is former Major League Baseball pitcher Harvey Martin. Harvey currently works with professional athletes, providing sound healing, guided meditation, and a unique sauna experience designed to unlock their ultimate potential. So let's hop inside and see how Harvey has taken professional athletes to the next level. Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode of Get Sweaty with Leddy. I have a new friend in here today, and by new friend, I mean this is my first time meeting Harvey.
Good to meet you.
Yeah, fun fact, previous guest, Reed Nellis of Minnesota Movement, after our episode, he reaches out to me and he's like, hey, man, you gotta meet this guy, Harvey. I think he's gonna be great for the show, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, sweet. And then recently, another guest, Glenn Auerbach, I'm on the phone with him, and he goes, oh, hey, I got a guy for you, Harvey. You gotta meet him. He's gotta be on the show. And I'm like, Glenn, he's gonna be on the show in 2 days. You know, that's awesome. But so it's pretty. You know, thanks for letting me know. But I already got this one on lockdown. So
love that.
It was clearly meant to be.
Yeah.
That we're gonna be sitting on the bench here.
No doubt.
So Harvey, tell us what brings you into pain.
Yeah, that's a beautiful intro. First of all, shout out to both those guys. Those are both lovely gentlemen, beautiful souls. What brings me into pain? What a beautiful, I love how we started that when we first, introduced each other on the concept. What brings me into pain? I would say if I go back to from the context of my story, right? That's fair.
Yep.
I would say when I first was exposed to pain, it was more of it was kind of a physical, but it manifested itself into a mental pain. And I was playing baseball in the minor leagues with the Milwaukee Brewers at the time. This was 2015. And I had some chronic back pain, like some chronic hip pain, nothing like crazy, right? Just go have a PT work on you, do your bit.
Yeah.
And then I went into spring training in 2015, and I started noticing when I would throw in a bullpen, I started noticing I would lose a little bit of my command. Like nothing crazy, but also something I'd never experienced before. And probably towards the end of camp, that really manifested into crazy. It went from like minute, slightly like couldn't throw a strike here and there to like couldn't find the strike zone as a pitcher. Yeah, and that manifested very quickly at the end of spring training 2015 into the first month of the season, where I essentially had the full-blown yips. I don't know if you're familiar with that concept.
I'm familiar.
Yeah.
So you describe that as just you can't hit the target.
Yeah, you just like the way I explained it in like a humorous way. If anyone remembers the Space Jam movie back in the day where they all took the powers out and put it in the ball.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden they couldn't dribble and stuff.
Yes.
That's the way I explained it in like a humorous sense. Is basically you just like are been talented at something for your whole life. Or in this, I was a professional baseball player at the time, so I was obviously talented at the thing.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't throw a strike at all, so I've lost all ability to do what I could do. So it felt like Space Jam. But in the way, like to generalize the yips, it's really just anxiety. It's like performance anxiety. And the way I would explain it in like a simple way is it's basically like having a panic attack.
Yeah.
So you're having a panic attack in your performance.
Oh man, and there's nothing you can do about it.
No.
Especially being a pitcher.
Yeah.
You're front and center,
Yeah,
all
you're the
eyes
thing.
on you.
Yeah.
Controlling the ball. 90% of the time, 99% of the time,
right.
Between just like what happens on the baseball field.
Yeah.
And that's got to be mentally just draining when you're trying to contain yourself on the mound while performing at an elite level.
Yeah, I mean it is, right? First of all, it's like terrifying, and then where it manifests into mental. And I'm happy you asked it the way you did, because I'll pull this answer in together, which I've had tons of time now to think about this. This is over a decade ago, so it's like I've had some time to reflect and process. But what's interesting is like the mental side of it, once it happened and I had essentially, there was no going back, right? I got to a point where I couldn't throw a baseball. Like I would throw balls like into the backstop or in like 40 feet in front of the plate. Like I'd spike it. And it just got to a point where I was like frozen, because that's a panic attack. You're essentially in a crazy sympathetic fight or flight freeze state in this scenario, and then you're in performance. So to what you just said, yes, if you're a professional, you're an entertainer if you're a pro athlete. So if I'm standing on the mound there to entertain the people that are there, I physically couldn't perform. So now if you're imploding like that in front of people, it's a terrible experience, as you can imagine, right? And I'm not the first. This has happened to tons of people. It happens to athletes in all kinds of sports. It just gets highlighted as a pitcher, because that's what pitching is. You know, sometimes people can hide it in different positions. A lot of people have the yips and they still perform. If you get that as a pitcher, that's the death of you, right? But anyway, so what's fascinating about that, to what you said, is that, yes, it manifested into this mental, like, anticipation phase. I used to anticipate pitching. So I would know I'm going to throw in 2 to 3 days. And the anticipation anxiety would start to creep in. And so it bled into this, like, chronic anxiety mental part of my life. So I categorize it as it finalized itself mentally. But what turned my life into a profession, which brings me into pain as like a, let's beat it up and think about it and digest it and try to understand it. What I found when I got released, obviously, a couple months later. So I got released in June of 2015. So that'll be 10 years this June coming up here. And when I got out of it, one of the things I was clearly not wanting to do was, I didn't want to take medication. I didn't want to take anti-anxiety or antidepressant stuff. And that was what I was kind of like leaning towards or getting pushed towards. Not like aggressively. It was just like those were the options.
Yeah, I mean, that's the natural path, right?
Yeah,
it's very easy for someone to recommend take these pills.
For sure. Yes, so that was what was happening to me. And I was just like, I felt like, let me try to do this naturally. Now I can use certain words that I didn't know then, but it's like at that point intuitively I was just like, how do I heal myself without that option? Give me some time. If I can't do it on my own, then I'll use the option. That was like my rationale, right? And so the rationale turned into, I discovered breathing, which was also somewhat intuitive. I met a guy who was doing Wim Hof breathing here in Minnesota, and I would go to his house on Saturdays, and he would kind of guide me and teach me through some practices. And then they had a wood-burning mobile sauna that they had just built. This was in 2015, and they just had a little tiny one in their backyard. His partner at the time, now wife, she was a sound bathing meditation teacher. Nice. So we would do this like wild, like, program that I'm so familiar with now, wasn't familiar with then. It was like I'd go there, we'd do breath work, we'd sauna, we'd jump in a cold tub to kind of contrast a little bit, and then at the end we'd drink tea and we'd do a deep meditation, and she'd use frequencies and whatever.
What a process.
Oh, it was incredible. It was like hours, like 3-4 hours.
Absolutely. I mean, immersing yourself in just a state of wellness.
100%. And it's funny you say that, because still at that time I wouldn't have known it was wellness. I was just so surrendering to the situation. Like, take me, I'll do what I'm trying to heal. Yeah. And I didn't know anything. I just noticed how I felt. Right? And like intellectually, I'm sure we can talk into some concept. I can talk deeply now, intellectually, and like what breathing is, or what sauna is, or what cold is, obviously, because I made a profession out of it. But at the time, and this is why I'm so grateful for it, I went into this wellness space purely off of feel. Like, it was all intuition. I wasn't trying to understand anything. I was just trying to get better. And that's what I noticed when I would go and do that on these Saturdays. I would leave and I'd go home. And as simple as it is then, as simple as it is now, I would realize that every Saturday I'd go home, and it was like the only day of the week that I felt happy, but I felt less stressed. Like, when you're so chronically anxious and in pain, it's like you're trapped in a cage, right? Yeah. Like your nervous system is just grabbed. Yeah. And you can't get out of it. And I would go do this on Saturdays, and it would be like a minimal space, but it was enough space to know that I didn't need to live contained. It wasn't changing my life necessarily. It was not like on Monday I woke up and was free. Yeah. But it was like enough to know that I could get free. And so I kept going back, and I did that for the duration of that fall. And then that winter, we're staring at Lake Minnetonka. This is Lake Minnetonka, right? Yep. And another variation or position of the lake, I swam in the lake on did breath work, no heat source, and I just did an athlete mind. I challenged myself to swim in the water. We carved some space for me to be able to swim in and out, and I had some people who were watching me. And it was, as the story goes, I've told it for the last 10 years, that was like my awakening. That was like my profound connection to nature. And I never looked back. And that's to the original part of this conversation. What flipped on me, and my perspective has maintained this since, is I realized I was trying to beat my mind with my mind. And psychology, and a lot of in sports, psychology is taught through psychology. It's like, you have psychological issues, let's work on psychology. And my worldview was flipped, because what I learned about psychology is it's a byproduct of your physiology. And now all of a sudden I could physiologically align myself with some tools through nature, and I could beat up my nervous system and heal it and penetrate myself through senses and nervous system regulation. And then my brain would think differently as a byproduct of that. And that's what, once that clicked with me intuitively, it was like off to the races, right? It was like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Oh, man. That's an incredible story.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
So you've been in this now for 10 years.
Yeah.
Do you have any sort of I would say, not like necessarily repercussions, but any instances that might take you back into that state of anxiousness or fright, or do you feel that you're far, or maybe it happens and you recognize it and you're so strong enough now because of the tools that you've built that it's just it's nothing?
Yeah, that's a really cool question. I would say I had a few panic attacks after baseball, and I had obviously the line of what I just told the story. Clearly I was not doing well mentally, so you go down a path of I was clearly depressed in a way. I was battling chronic anxiety. That's just not a way to live, right? I'm not unique in that. A lot of us go through periods of our life where we experience those things. And I think that in an essence, that's pain, right? What I've learned about pain is that everything's everything: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. It's all aligned. And so pain becomes this fascinating teacher. Yeah. And there's this deep paradox to pain. So do I have moments today where I remember what that pain was like 10 years ago? For sure. I haven't dealt with panic attacks since the end of my playing career. I've had anxiety for sure, but nothing where it's like deliberate, it's like crushing my life. Yeah, like there were times where I couldn't do things in society.
I know what that's like.
Yeah, and so I think have I experienced that? No, I haven't. Am I immune? Am I beyond that? No. And I think that's the principles, right? Because when I broke, metaphorically, in that scenario with performance anxiety, it didn't just happen that day. And that's what I've learned a lot about working with athletes and myself, right? It was like an accumulation of years of suppressing sympathetic activities or lifestyle parts. It was disobeying the principles of health. Yeah. Which the principles of health, in my opinion, are in accordance with nature. They're very simple. All of the species experience breathing, nutrition, movement, and sleep. Humans have, supposedly the way we understand it, we have the highest level of consciousness, so we have social connection. Yep. We have the ability to interpret ideas and tell narratives, and we experience love at a higher level, right? So we share all four of those as rational, foundational principles of health. And if there's a leak in one of those four, breathing, nutrition, movement, and sleep, then you're going to get hurt, mentally or physically. So, when I look back at my life, I was a chronic mouth breather my entire life. I was anatomically unsound in my jaw, which I'm still trying to fix as an adult. It's obviously easier when you're a child, but narrow airways, jaws pushed back, I have crooked teeth. I've been a mouth breather. That's fight or flight activity. So it's to do that as a pro athlete and think that you can just ride on pain pills and Red Bulls and then smoke yourself to sleep at night and then get up and do it again the next day. Well, it's fine in the short term, in the interim, you can kind of get away with that and have a few good outings here and there. But as far as longevity, vitality, that system will break because you've dispersed you've taken yourself away from nature. So what I would say is, today I have a ton of respect for the potential of what can happen. Like, I'm very clear of where your brain can go.
Yeah.
I'm very understanding of the depths of pain. Like, I'm not naive to it. I'd like to try to stay humbled to the potential of it. But I also, I just trust the very simple rules of maintaining health. And it's what I just said. It's very basic. It's like, you just make sure that you're aligned with the sun and you sleep. You make sure you do certain practices like this that are very natural, very up and down, polarizing to the nervous system, so they kind of zap you. And then you just become aware of breathing and clear yourself in the food as best as you can, which I know it's hard where we're at in society. And then you just move, right? And it's like as simple as going on a walk. It's like a walk to me is a non-negotiable.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's so easy.
So easy.
And you would think it might not be doing enough for you,
right,
but it is.
Yeah, and I think that's the lesson I learned in my own life, is, when I look back at when I was immersed in pain and confused of pain, it was just a very much disobeying some of the extreme natural laws of health.
Right. Well, and especially as an athlete, you're working your body so hard, it's almost that masochist lifestyle where it's not performing unless you're exhausting yourself.
Correct.
But, sometimes you have to just start back from a neutral state and just walk a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I like how you said that, for sure.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to hear more about what you do with athletes. Let's toss a log on this fire here.
Get a log on there.
And really start leaking.
Start diving in.
Yeah.
I love it. Great
All
first
right,
set.
Take a break. All right, the sweat is rolling down.
Feel it.
The mercury is rising. We're getting closer and closer to that ever so glorious cold plunge.
Yeah, baby.
Harvey, your story is amazing, first off.
Appreciate that.
Everything that you're saying is just right on my level. I feel bad that we're only having this conversation in the sauna for the first time. I can't wait to pick your brain,
No doubt.
down the road. One, at sauna days, which we're about to be at.
That's right.
For us, it's next week, but by the time this is released, we'll have already enjoyed
Experienced
ourselves.
it.
Tell us what you're doing with athletes now that you have, built this identity around wellness and platform to help people.
Yeah, so kind of what I was saying earlier, I would say it gets categorized. I liked the term. So I came up in baseball. Mental skills coach is like a very well-known position, right? It's been around for a significant amount of time. And as I was saying, when my worldview changed from that like psychology second type deal, physiology first, I think what was interesting is that when I was in school, I went to Minnesota State, and I didn't get a degree in sports psychology, but my master's degree, like partial of it, was sports psychology, and it was enough classes to sort of definitely like reach me, like I was into it, And I'd always kind of, even when I was playing with the Brewers org, like I was close to all the mental skills coaches. I loved the sports psych department. I was always into that as an athlete. And so I'd always known that I wanted to work with the mind, right? I wanted to do something. So mental skills coach is kind of like the route to take if you're not going to be a doctorate in psychology. You can kind of become this mental skills position, and it's relevant in baseball specifically. And then obviously if you play professional baseball, you kind of have a leg up, just like natural cause, right?
Yeah.
So that was what I was titled under for so long, as I was going to be this mental skills guy, right? And I think a lot of my early career 10 years ago was really like tackling that, and I was doing mental skills stuff with a lot of youth. I mean, I primarily started out in youth sports, youth baseball specifically, up to high school. And I was teaching pitching in mental skills, and I was toying with breathing, but like I said earlier, I was like figuring things out for myself first. So it's not like I was exploring. I didn't know I was going to be a breathing coach, per se.
Yeah, you're just trial and error. It's just
so
like doing some push-ups, right? Where you're just working on some breaths.
100%. So like when I was teaching pitching, it was just like second nature. That was easy. I was a former pro athlete. I did some scouting with the Milwaukee Brewers, so I was in player development. But where I'm going with all this is that I really liked over the last couple of years, my title formed itself naturally into human performance. And I just take away even the term human and just call it performance coaching. So to answer your question directly, what it's really done for me now, or I've really curated the position, is it's like a hybrid of mental skills and psychological training for sure, but it's hybrided with recovery and physiology.
Nice.
And that's kind of where I think the pain aspect comes in, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I try to balance the two. So like if I'm working with somebody, we are clearly going to, the guy I just came with, we didn't do any breath work. We literally just talked for 90 minutes and we're like beating up concepts, and strategy. Especially for pro athletes or pro coaches, that's like so difficult because of how in it you are.
Right.
You're in it so daily. So to have a third party sort of be like a voice of reason or hold up a mirror and kind of let you rationalize your thoughts is, I think, it's been productive for my career, but I like it. The more I'm in it, I'm biased, obviously. It looks like a very positive thing for people to do. So that's clearly like one lane that I definitely like working with athletes. But I would say largely depending on the sport, and it can change, the variables change obviously off of what sport you're working with. It would be recovery and physiological like training. So that's sound bathing, working with frequencies and nervous system, trying to mess with the senses a little bit and learn how to shift through vibrancy. And then there's heat and cold, obviously. So we're using some sort of like thermal regulation to tackle the nervous system, whether that's recovery, strength, or mental resilience too. All those categories I think fit when you're talking thermal regulation. And then there's simple things like natural movements, balance, and then my baby is clearly the breath work. So everything starts from breathing, and I've worked at that last, but it comes into that funnel. It's like I'll bounce off of breathing and integrate it into any of those tools I just talked about.
That's amazing. So do you see success with, obviously there's a breathing, but do you see success with one of the other tools more than another, or is it really just a case-by-case scenario, and then you're just getting your own feedback and then using that as a tool for knowledge down the road?
Yeah, I think when I like anything, when you first start teaching, you're just a little bit more nervous. Like I'm way less nervous now. I'm never right necessarily. I'm just less nervous. I don't feel like certainty when I'm working with somebody, but I feel comfortable in the data I've collected and the experiences I've had to show up to any athlete and figure it out in real time. Yeah. And where I'm going to say with that is that I think that mechanics or protocols and structure is extremely needed. There needs to be like a foundational practice. If anybody I'm working with, we're going to do that with breathing. So it's like just very simple. It's like, let's look at the mechanics of breathing. Obviously, I'm sure most people we've talked to, and the more we look in this world from a holistic view, breathing in and of itself to be mechanically sound is difficult.
Yeah.
Like we don't understand the difficulty of literally just breathing pure and being able to move your ribs and be able to expand your diaphragm, be able to pull up your pelvic floor. Like it sounds, we push through it,
right? But
we don't understand how mechanically unsound we are.
And a perfect example is just how you said you were a mouth breather your whole entire life. You're thinking you're doing it normal.
Correct.
Nobody's telling you otherwise, but you're creating a myriad of issues that are slowly negatively developing.
No doubt.
Right? To the point where you can't reverse that in a short period of time. It takes then almost the same amount of work to get you to that negative state
100%.
To get you to a positive state.
Yeah, I think that's what's hard about pro sports is that because of the time constraint, and they're very aware of the window of opportunity that they have, and you know what I'm talking about in this stuff too. So often what I was self-victim, like it was just naiveness, is you only concern yourself with curing symptoms. Right? You don't do what you just talked about. Like there's no interest in understanding the root, because especially in season, because it's like I need to play now. If I don't play tomorrow, I'm losing money. Like, and so there's so much materialism attached to the philosophy. Yeah. That's really difficult to do what you just said. And that's why I would say, like at a foundational level, breathing needs to start across the board. Anybody, any sport, any population, whatever you are, male, female, it needs to be mechanical, and learning just how to slowly, deeply breathe and be able to feel the difference of breathing through your mouth versus breathing through your nose, and how that changes your anatomy. If you breathe through your mouth, you create more of an upper lung, right? An upper respiratory, upper shoulder breath compared to nasal breathing. So it's like, how do you make the diaphragm work mechanically? And it's a muscle. What's interesting about the diaphragm, that it doesn't have the nerve endings on it like a bicep, like we were just talking about in the break. So it's like you don't get feedback like you do in a gym, because the diaphragm can't tire out on you. Right. Like you need to use that. Yeah. So it does require an extreme dose of awareness and understanding when you are like clearly working on the mechanics of breath. But then I think once that It's not hard, it's simple, but it's being diligent. It's being obedient to being able to mechanically breathe well. Then what I think is fascinating is once the mechanics are somewhat, we'll say, stable, and you're aware of how to create stability and the breathing soundly, now we can climb up into physiology, which is where the world of breath took off in the last 10 years, right? With things like Wim Hof and breath holds and hypoxia breathing and things like that. That's all physiological.
Yeah.
And we can actually manipulate the nervous system and oxygenate the muscle tissue. And you can do some really cool things, like clearly. But that's like the middle tier. And that changes off of sport for sure. Like a starting pitcher is a different body. You want it to be as aerobic as possible, to be oxygen and long sustainable in comparison to like a ninth inning closer.
Yeah, who's a sprinter.
Yes, like let's be anaerobic, let's crush it, but make sure you live aerobic until your 5-minute performance, and then go anaerobic, be the cheetah, crush, and then come out of that and be anaerobic or aerobic again. It's like hockey, right? When you look in hockey, it's like on ice, you're anaerobic. Like let it rip, dude. Mouth breathe mechanically on sound, play crazy, live in the chaos, do your thing subconsciously. But then in your 3-minute microcosms of shift change, it's like you do have the ability to down-regulate your breath and bring your heart rate down and not use fuel. Now you can macro that out to periods or post games. And so the only way to govern state consciously is breathing.
Yeah.
The heart rate, the blood, the organs, all that stuff is happening unconsciously. That's why it's in the autonomic. People understand that part about breathing. Breathing's in the category of autonomic, your NS. It's your automatic functionality of what's happening. But you can make it conscious.
Yeah. Man.
Which is what takes you up to the third tier, which is psychology. So now if I understand that I can consciously maneuver my physiology, my internal functions, well, that gives me access to consciousness, which is that's supposedly the separator of humans to the rest of the animal kingdom.
Mammals, yep.
Right.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice if elementary phy ed taught breathing?
Yeah, think about that all the time.
It would just be. I can't imagine. I mean, they should do a research project. Take 2 elementary schools that are close to each other, teach one breath work or just simple breathing, and like 1 through 5, and see the level of athletics or the level of knowledge. Like, are they producing better students? Are they producing better athletes? Are they producing better humans?
Yeah.
Is there a greater connection? There's so many things that you could trial and error with a simple, healthy, non-costly study, in a sense, just about breathing.
Yeah, I mean, you got it's complex, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's, I do poke at this. This is a philosophical thing of coaching, but I can't hear you say that and not say this, because I say this often to people I work with and myself. I recognize this on my own self. It's like the concept of teaching people is to help them become self-reliant, right? Like, I think that's like a generalization.
Yeah.
And I feel like most people would agree with that. I'm coaching you to help you become more you, become more self-reliant. The paradox to coaching, especially as in a career path, is that the second you become self-reliant, why am I needed? And that's where it becomes like you got to deeply think about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's almost like we stop ourselves from growing because we want ourselves to be reliant. And we want to just be reliant on certain systems. Like, one of the powers of breathing is the truth that lives within it. So it's like to be self-reliant on your breath, your physiology, your awareness. You step outside of the fabric of society.
Right.
Like, you move into your authentic you.
Yes.
You become you.
Yes.
That's the thing about it. But
100%.
the scary part about it is when you go over there, it's just you. So you have to learn how to balance both. How do I be me authentically and just not have to be reliant on the world to be my healer? I can be self-reliant, but then knowing and appreciating the reality and the justification that happens in the real world. Like, now we're definitely like, you do need to build the business. You need to have a successful outing. You need to have a good game. Like, there's just results that do matter.
Yep.
And I think that breathing, it's hard if you're going to be a breathing coach or into breathing, it's hard for you to not dive into philosophy. Like, once you start getting into that stuff, you're going to start seeing things differently.
Totally. I studied sport management at college, and I had a number of sports psychology classes that I loved.
Oh, yeah.
And it was my philosophy of sport class that took me onto a whole nother level.
Nice.
And I think that we're speaking the same wavelengths a little bit on the philosophy side as well as the psychology side, but more importantly, the physiological side.
Yeah.
You can't ignore that. The physiological side must be functioning in order for the rest to perform optimally.
100%. I think we miss that. I think we silo everything.
We're too reactive.
Yes, we're too reactive, and we silo everything. We want things to be the thing.
Yeah.
I want my mind to be the mind. That's not how it works. Your body, the anatomy of my jaw is going to change the way in which I think because of the narrow airway that I experienced adolescence and young adulthood with. So now all of a sudden, if I have less oxygen in my brain, you already alluded towards it. Imagine if the children are oxygenated, what the brain's doing.
Yeah.
Right?
How much disease we're eliminating by getting way out in front of it.
Yeah, but you think ADHD exists as often if we have oxygen in the brain?
Hell no.
Right.
Yeah.
So you guys start thinking about stuff like that.
You know what else I'm thinking about right now?
Yeah, I know what you're thinking
about that cold plunge.
I've been thinking about it too.
Piping.
Because round 2 is a little bit different.
A little bit different for sure. Well, let's go. Let's get some breathing exercise in that cold plunge.
Good
and then
round.
come back here
Good
for a little wrap
sesh.
up.
Yeah.
This is hands down the nicest day that we've had filming an episode. Water's still gonna be a little chilly. We got low 40s. I didn't check the official temp today, but I do know it's low 40s. So
you're gonna feel it.
Yeah, we're gonna feel it for sure. We got a ladder in here so you can kind of pop onto that. And then, oh yeah, I don't have to worry about my toe or anything anymore. Cut my toe real bad. My foot broke through ice like a month ago.
Wow.
I cut it real bad. Oh, this is good.
Ooh. Yep, that's real.
Yeah, because we have the channel, we have more moving water than most areas, so it's always just a little colder around here, which makes for a prime plunge.
Yeah, this is nice.
This is nice.
I haven't been in a real cold plunge in a while. Nature's plunge.
Nature's plunge. Yeah. What do you like to do with your breathing technique in cold? Do you typically do Wim Hof?
No, so I'll do it before.
Okay.
But I would say I've actually used this a lot over the years. My favorite number is 15, and so the irony of the synchronicity of this is the cadence breathing, right? So a lot of the literature shows coherent cadence breathing. If you can take 5 breaths a minute, right? You kind of control the nervous system.
Nice.
So if you're doing that, 5 seconds in, slight pause, 5 seconds out, slight pause, 5 breaths of that in a minute, you're at a very coherent pace. Your heart rate goes down, et cetera, et cetera. So what I've done over the years is I'll do, we're gonna do 3 minutes in the cold tub. So it's like, I'm gonna do 3 minutes, set the timer if I'm new to it, and try to do 15 breaths.
Nice.
If I can't do it through the nose, I'll do it through the mouth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then eventually 3-4 weeks goes by, you get someone who can actually do 15 breaths in 3 minutes all through the nose, and you track that. So you're just following that. And then after a month, get rid of the watch and just breathe. And what you'll note, what I've found over the years is that, my nervous system, like right now I feel pretty good. So we could probably do that, but let's say we didn't sleep last night, or we're sick, or we've been traveling a lot, and I come in and and it's the same temp, like you just mentioned the temperature of this.
Yep.
So what makes that interesting is that now all of a sudden the nervous system responds naturally to the breathing rather than the clock. Because I think a lot of times we get obsessed with the clock, like you gotta do 3 minutes.
Yeah, you're always thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
It's just better to be with the breath.
Yeah, so now all of a sudden I can use my breathing. If I did 15 breaths and I'm only in here for 2 minutes, that's what my body was capable of handling. In comparison to I have to do this.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm not necessarily married to the protocol, I'm married to my breathing, which is what we've been talking about.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Power of the breath.
Power of the breathing.
Oh, this is wonderful though.
Yeah, this is great. I'm just still so obsessed with your guys' setup. It's incredible.
It's a good time around here. We're very grateful that we get to just create the space within the space.
Yeah, no doubt.
How you feeling? You want to pop out?
I'm good, yeah, you go.
All right.
Follow you.
All right, let's go. Oh yeah. I love plunging when there's ice, but this is just perfect right now.
Well, for the aesthetics, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you're coming out, there's no harsh shock. It's just pure wellness.
Just make sure I don't slip on this thing.
Yeah, it's a little slick. It's a little slick.
I'm fighting my bearings.
In the wintertime, we'll be coming out and it'll be so cold that it'll get caked with ice, and then it's real slick.
Yeah. That was great.
Fuck yeah.
Good stuff.
All right, going back to that sauna. Oh yeah, we are alive now.
Yeah.
That was so fantastic.
No.
It was excellent to hear your perspective on breathing while we were in there as well, because I'm gonna use that going forward. I want to try that out.
Try it out.
It makes so much sense.
Right on.
So, we heard your story. We heard what you do. It's all amazing and really speaks to me. And you being a coach and teaching people or coaching people, I want everybody to know the importance of a coach and sticking with somebody that's an expert and always evolving with yourselves, because our society is so used to getting a little bit of help, getting some success, and then thinking we know it all, and then maybe we flounder, maybe we don't, maybe we slightly deviate from that skill and we think we're doing it right, we're doing it wrong. Whereas the coach is always evolving, and it's always working to hone in on being better at that practice. So I encourage all of you out there to, if you're ever using a coach in any way, shape, or form, stick with the coach. If you don't like that particular coach, maybe you got to move on to another coach, but don't write coaching off all as a whole. Use it as a tool to enhance yourself, take yourself to the next level.
Well said. Yeah, I think that what you just said of evolving, I think of as the role of the coach is to stay ahead, right?
Yep.
That's like kind of your standard, or your responsibility, maybe is a better word. You should be responsible to always stay ahead of the student or the athlete.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what came to me in that thought, for sure.
Yeah, and professional athletes are at the top of their level and they're still working with coaches. The common person that wants to simply improve themselves should rely on the knowledge of a coach to enhance yourself. So
yeah, I would agree.
Damn right. Well, Harvey, it has been real sitting here talking with you. If you're an athlete out there looking to take yourself to the next level from a performance standpoint or a life standpoint, reach out to Harvey. If you're not an athlete and you want to just get to know more, Harvey, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, for sure. I would, I keep it pretty simple on my socials. I just Harvey J. Martin. So Harvey J. Martin on Instagram, Twitter, same thing on YouTube. Those are kind of the three sources I use for creating content. And then my website is harveyjmartin.com. So that's the same thing. Just got to keep it simple.
I love it.
And then I would say resources-wise, obviously I do a lot of stuff like this, like do podcasts, and I run my own podcast called The Moment with Mart, which is all on those same links that you can easily see. But resources-wise, other than like the free content that I share through podcasts or YouTube and obviously the IG and the Twitter, is I have 2 books out. So Without Words was published and came out last December. Without Words, the Mastering the Art of Being, which you can get on Amazon, or my website's Kohler Books published that, so you can go on Kohler.
Nice.
And then the previous book I published a few years ago was called Breathe, Focus, Excel, which is optimizing, obviously, recovery for athletes. So that's more of like tailored specifically for athletes. That was published by Human Kinetics, so you can go to Human Kinetics or my sites for both those books. The Without Words is more, I don't talk about athletes at all in that, so that's a little bit more philosophical, more generalization to like a lot of stuff that we've been talking about. I basically frame life into 2 aspects. Like, you are a character that plays the world, which is your being, and then you're a soul, in essence, a different energy source. That's essentially awareness, and that's your state of becoming, but you need both, which we've talked a lot about on and off right there. So that's more that book. That's more philosophical. That's if you're not an athlete and you're listening and you're just like not interested in learning about breathing or saunas and stuff, then I would steer you more towards that one. The Breathe, Focus, Excel is saunas, grounding, cold tub. I think there's probably like 75, plus protocols. Might be 100. I can't remember.
Sweet.
So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there.
That's amazing. So, you heard it here. There's a lot of tools out there that Harvey himself provides. I encourage you to dive into it. Encourage you to stick with us on another episode down the road. But let's Let's thank Harvey for being here.
Thank you, brother.
Appreciate you all for watching the show today. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.